ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Koti Vaishnava jai. All glories to the assembled lords. Let's chant some mantras. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
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 Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
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 So, I felt that this seminar could be something like this. That in the course of embarking upon the journey to attain Krishna, we meet ourselves, and that's kind of where spiritual life becomes a sobering experience. In the beginning, maybe we take up spiritual life with many high ideals. In the beginning, we think, yes, from now on, I'll just surrender. It's easy. All I will do is just surrender. And then we realize that actually surrender is not based on a decision. That simply to decide to surrender is not exactly how it works, and that surrender requires a step-by-step adjustment. So many aspects to our personality, so many aspects to the way we conduct ourselves, and all these things get in the way. It is said in the Nectar of Devotion that good. In the Nectar of Devotion, it is said that as we get to know Krishna more and more, we also get to know ourselves more and more. Because just as one can see himself by the light of the sun, one can see himself in the relationship with Krishna. This theme that we always exist in relationship, child in relationship to the parent, parent in relation to the child, and then they go for a walk. Such is life. Okay, it worked. So, at any time in our life, we always exist in a relationship. Either in a relationship with the place where we are. Oh, so nice, now we are in the mountains. I feel completely different. Free time, fresh air, sunshine, Swiss mountains, cows and bells, of course, have to be there to make it complete. The Swiss experience, even muesli for breakfast, what more could you desire? It really feels like being in another type of atmosphere. Like this, we are in relationship. When we are in a place and the weather is very horrible, it's kind of November and it's cold and wet and grey sky, and rain day after day, and already for 37 days you haven't seen the sun, then you think like, maybe we should go to Vrindavan for Kartik or something. Maybe we should get out of here. It gets too much. So, in this way, we are not independent. We are, and different aspects of our personality are coming out. With one person, we have one relationship and we have one type of conversation, and with somebody else, we're a different person. Like that, we exist in relationship. But in all these relationships, there is a false element, because we've taken birth in a particular family. We have our family relationship. Then we enter into social relationships at school, at work, and so on. And in all of them, we are playing many roles. So life is full of playing roles. Everyone plays a role. And even in the private sphere, we still play a role to some extent. So therefore, no one even knows himself. We've heard many times that when devotees met Srila Prabhupada, that they felt that he looked right through them, and they felt that he knew them better than they knew themselves. This is a fact, that actually we don't know ourselves. We have become estranged from ourselves. In anthropology, they're saying that where they study the cultures of mankind, they say that man is a combination, they say man is suspended between culture and nature, somewhere in between the two. And it is difficult to understand what is our nature and what is culture, because culture becomes so much enforced upon us. After so many years, it just becomes part of our nature. But it is culture, and in this way, we develop identities. So we have so many over many lifetimes, we have developed identities. In the scriptures, these identities are referred to as upadis. It says one must free himself from the upadis, from the false identities that we have. So in one sense, one can say that a devotee is in search for identity. The one book that especially provides us our identity is the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because we may look at the Bhagavad Gita and the process of bhakti is outlined in the Bhagavad Gita, but then the intricacies of relating to Krishna are not described. Srimad Bhagavatam takes it a step further and begins to explain the glories of Krishna, of how he interacts with his devotees. Particularly that we see in Srimad Bhagavatam. That's the one thing that's really not there in Bhagavad Gita. A lot of information of how Krishna interacts with his devotees. But in the Bhagavatam, that is extensively explained. So, then comes Chaitanya Charitamrita. Once, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was in Assam, and at that time they were doing a program not so far from the Ganga, in an ashram, it was on a little bit high ground. But what happened was that just as the program began, there was an earth tremor. And the result of that earth tremor was that it caused a flash flood. And the flood just suddenly came like a wave, and a huge area became flooded all at once. Somehow or other, the place where the program was above the water. So it inspired Srila Bhaktisiddhanta to give a lecture on the Mahapralaya, which is the final inundation of the universe. It's like at one point the whole universe becomes covered with water, and then destruction takes place, and then later the universe comes back into existence. So this destruction by water is called the Mahapralaya. So he began to speak about the Mahapralaya, and he said, and if this Mahapralaya comes, said, then you'll have to leave everything behind. Everything that had meaning in your life, you'll have to leave it behind, and you can really, what can you take? He said, only the minimum. So what will you take? He said, you'll take Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you see yourself running with arms full of books, right? And just trying to keep the head above the water. That's not so easy, because books are heavy. So he says that if it's difficult to carry all those books, and you're in the middle of all that water, what will you do? And you have to let one book go. Which book will you let go? He said, the Bhagavad Gita. You let it go. He says, because in Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, you find the same conclusions of Bhagavad Gita. It's there. But not the other way around. So you have still one arm Bhagavad Gita, the other arm, you have one arm Srimad Bhagavatam, one arm Chaitanya Charitamrita, and you're walking through the water, and then you get tired and think, how can I carry all these books? Which one to let go? The Srimad Bhagavatam or the Chaitanya Charitamrita? Which one?
Srimad Bhagavatam.
And why? Because Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita are not any different. They're the same. The very same conclusions of the Bhagavatam are repeated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, only very shortly, in the 11th canto, we find a few verses dealing with the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Varnam, Tisa Krishna, Sangapagasta Parsadam. In that verse it is explained that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in a merciful incarnation and will deliver people through the Yagya Sankirtanir, Prajer. He will come, Yayanti Yusumeda Saha, he will give this Sankirtan Yagya, and intelligent people will engage in it. Alright, that's there, but not so much more. But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the conclusions of the Bhagavatam are there, but also the topic of mercy is described. It is said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this important verse, it is said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Kara Vichar Vichara Karite Chitte Pavachamatkar. That if you indeed want to engage in, if you like to think logically and try to figure out what is the truth, he said, apply your tendency to engage in logic to understanding the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if you understand the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, your heart will fill with wonder. So this verse is like an open invitation from Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to understand the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So why am I choosing this topic? It's because it's the story of my life. It's the story of my spiritual life, because without that mercy, there's no way I would be here There's no way I would have lasted as long as I did. No way. Some years ago, I was reading Vyasa Puja offerings of various devotees, and I came across an offering of Borijan Prabhu. And Borijan is one of the early devotees in our movement who was initiated in 1968. So that's quite early, joined in 67 somewhere. So at that time, some of us were not born, and those who were born were doing other things. So it's a long time ago. So then, a few years ago, he wrote an offering and to Srila Prabhupada, and basically he wrote, "My dear Srila Prabhupada, please accept all praise and glories to Prabhupada." Said, "This year I have nothing to report. This year I really can't think of anything extraordinary that I have done." He said, "I have not distributed any books. I have not done a lot of service. I have not really done anything. He said, the only thing I can say this year is, I'm still here." And that was it. Which, you know, if you think about it, from the 60s till now, to be still here, that's something. That's something. So I liked the offering because I was thinking, yeah, well, you know, nothing to report, but I'm still here. I was thinking, it was smart. It was smart. Yeah. So yes, what does it take for us to be still here? That's what comes to my mind. How can I say, after 40 years, I'm still here? After 45 years, I'm still here. The very first and foremost thing is mercy. It is mercy that is the reason why we are here. It's not by the service I have done. And if I think, why am I still here? It's not because of all the service I've done. Because if I think back of all the service I've done, I came to the Krishna Balaram Mandir in Vrindavan, and I joined there, and I became, on the second day they asked me to help out in the restaurant. On the third day, the manager of the restaurant, he ran away. On the fourth day, I was the manager of the restaurant. I didn't quite know how it worked. And from that moment, all hell broke loose. It was just too much, you know. First, I had an Italian devotee serving out prasadam, and he had a particular style, you know, and it's like, bravo, taking prasadam, and he's serving it out at the table, and he take a spoon and just put it on the plate, you know, and then it would splash over people's clothes. So I tried to tell him, Prabhu, maybe a little more careful. I mean, who are you to tell me something? So, okay. I was afraid he was going to bring a stiletto if I was going to push any harder. You don't mess with Italians. So then, in the kitchen, it was not much better, because on one occasion, there was a large group of people in the kitchen that came to the restaurant. The kitchen was downstairs, and I ordered chapatis, and lots of chapatis came up, and so on. And then when I came down, the local Bengali cook was still cooking chapatis. There were no more people, and he's just churning them out like a machine. So I told him, like, stop. Nothing could stop the man, you know. Just chapati after chapati. And so finally, you know, I said, nothing worked, you know. So at the end, I took his arm. Then suddenly he exploded. He took the hot plate of the chapati, which had a handle, lifted it up and was about to attack me with it. And he screamed that I had beaten him. Which, you know, anyway, it was a big drama, and after a couple of days, I had to apologize and everything, but later on I fired him. I got him for that, you know. Anyway, then I got this old Prabhupada disciple named Rohini Kumar as a chapati cook. And then one day, there were 25 people walking into the restaurant in one group. And it means 4 chapatis per person, so that's 100 chapatis. So I just called down to the kitchen, okay, about 100 chapatis. And then no chapatis were coming. No chapatis at all, you know. And I called again, where are the chapatis? Where are the chapatis? No chapatis. And then the people in India, people are in restaurants, they are kind of demanding, you know. They started to bang their cups on the table. Bang, 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 we want chapatis. I was sweating. And then suddenly, there was a staircase coming up from the kitchen to the restaurant, and suddenly the door flew open, and my chapati cook flew out the door, and on his finger, he had from chapati dough made the head of a joker. He put it under my nose, and he says, no chapati, because the cook has quit. That was it. So, what shall I say? You know, I had joined the Hare Krishna movement. It was not so easy. It was not easy at all. Not easy at all. And it got more and more intense. And getting up early in the morning, chanting my rounds, and doing service all day. It was super intense. So, and one day I walked into the temple in Vrindavan, and I went. There's 2 doors next to the altar to go in the back, and I had to do something there. So I went through that door, and there was just a pujari coming, the head pujari, who was French. Excusez-moi. For the accent, excusez-moi. The French pujari, he was coming with the clothes of the deities, and he was coming just up the staircase, and I was just coming through the door, and just as I came through the door, he was coming up, and with his foot he kicked the door, and it hit me on the head. And I was standing there, like, and then he said, with the French accent, you have no brain. You have no brain. Can you not see that I am passing here? Okay. I had to do the French accent because it adds a little extra spice. Again, forgive me. Well, put it together. Yes. And that sort of brought me to a point, my break point. I came to a point, I had already gone through a few other heavy experiences. There was also a local sannyasi, and I had confided with the sannyasi and told him that my girlfriend, who I used to be with, was still on my mind, and then the sannyasi just, and I said it's sometimes difficult to put that out of my mind. He said, well, it may take 10 years. And then he kept on speaking, but I didn't hear what he said. I just heard 10 years, 10 years, 10 years. And then the next day I got the bang on my head. And then I thought, I'm getting out of here. And I made my first escape from the Hare Krishna movement while all the devotees were in the temple. Govinda Adipurusham. I slipped out of the back door. Just then. Yeah, what to do. So, surrender was not so simple. Surrender was not so simple. It wasn't exactly like I thought it was going to be. You know, I had a very romantic idea of how it was going to be, very sweet and devotional and so on. I realized that, and I thought that the association of the devotees was a key point in devotional service. I had heard. And I thought that, yes, these devotees, they're meant to be my source of inspiration. But then it didn't quite work like that. It didn't work like that. Actually, as I said, in that restaurant, the manager that left, he didn't just leave. Actually, on the second day, I came in the kitchen and he was a brahmachari and he was embracing one of the ladies in the kitchen, and I just walked in on that. And then he ran away. So I was shocked. The person that I looked up to, a senior, and the person that I thought was going to give me inspiration, not quite. And then the head pujari, he hit my head, which I didn't quite expect from a head pujari to give me a headache. I thought a head pujari would say deep and inspiring words. So it was the big issue, the first crisis I had in spiritual life was that I was looking for people to give me inspiration. And I felt that it was lacking. I really felt I need more. You know, I am just new. I'm just totally new in spiritual life, and you know, I can't make this on my own. I need more support. And where is the support? It wasn't there. That was the situation. So then what to do? Okay, well, I took a little vacation from Krishna consciousness, but it didn't last very long. And I returned to the temple, but shortly after I had to leave India because of visa and so on. So my spiritual life continued. And again, there were all kinds of classes, and the classes were deep. The classes were good. In Vrindavan, we had good speakers. We had sharp speakers, right, who were philosophically astute. Yes, so it wasn't lacking in knowledge. Knowledge was there. I got a lot of information of what to do and what not to do, and but still, I just I struggled. I struggled with my mind. I used to play guitar and quite serious before, not just as a hobby, but in a serious way. And then it didn't fit in the Hare Krishna movement that I joined. Srila Prabhupada said, guitar is Maya. But that was all I used to do. So I was there in boring Bhagavatam classes. I was playing guitar in my mind. All kinds of styles and things. What to do. So, yes, it's like that, right? There is the external person and there's the internal person, and there's quite a difference between the two. The external person who plays his role very nicely, the devotee role, who every day puts tilak very nicely. But what about the internal person? The internal person is remaining behind. So this is the topic I wanted to begin with, the internal person. I have to again type the password. This thing all the time wants a password. If you don't use it for 5 minutes, it wants the password again. Okay, one moment. What will be the basis of my presentation will be a verse book that I'm making. My project, my study project, has become over the years Chaitanya Charitamrita. In 1984, ISKCON for the first time had a all-in-one Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It was Hansa Dutta who arranged for that. And it was the complete one, with Bengali and everything. And that book, it stayed with me from 1984 till a very, very long time. Then I got blind over the years and couldn't read the small letters anymore. And then I carried the big 2.5 kilo all-in-one CC for like 5 years. And then my back went out, because I had to carry it in the hand luggage. And then my back went out and then I couldn't carry the thing anymore. But now I've got an e-book reader and it's all in there. So the Chaitanya Charitamrita has been with me constantly from 1984. So it's become very much part of my life, and I'm doing different study projects on the CC and working on a serious book on the CC, and then also create some other things. And in the course of that, we're making a CC verse book, which I also will publish one of these days. And I have here the draft form. It's nice, a CC verse book, a Chaitanya Charitamrita verse book, because you get a bird's view of what is there, because a verse book takes the highlights. So really, it's like, it's nice reading, it's nice going through. I mean, we made it, and then I like to read it sometimes on a plane. I read through it, and it takes me like in an overview through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is interesting. So I begin now in this verse book in the Adi Lila, first chapter, text number 4. Anai pitacharim chirat karunayavatir nukalo samapayatam unatachvalarasam sabakti sriyam hari purata sundara juti kadamba sandipita sadaridaya kandare spuradu vasatsinandana. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of our heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So, what I want to focus on is the innermost chambers of the heart. I like that. It compares the heart to a palace with many, many chambers. And yes, it is a fact. On the outside of the palace there are public chambers. These public chambers are the part of our personality that we share with others. And we are just spending a lot of time having all kinds of exchanges, and we're open about whatever is in that domain. But then, as we go more towards the inner chambers of the palace, which are not the public places, then there, in the innermost chamber, there, something is hidden which we will not revealed to anyone, no matter what. That's that little private chamber that we'll not even share with our dearmost ones. That one that remains always hidden. And it's about that chamber that here we see Krishna Das Kaviraj is speaking and is saying that the Lord should enter into that innermost chamber. That means that everything else, whatever is dear to us, which is hidden in that chamber, those hidden desires that are there in that chamber, they have to go before the Supreme Lord can enter. And that is basically the meaning of this verse. This verse is part of the 14 introductory verses of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and these 14 introductory verses are being explained in over 7 chapters, and in these 7 chapters, then we get an idea of the Panchatattva, and then the remaining part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita elaborates deeper and deeper upon all the themes that have been identified here in these opening verses. So, now we may think that so far this talk, one of my critics could say, is he going to talk about Krishna or what? Or is he going to talk about himself and ourselves the whole time? How long is he going to talk about just our own human experience, and when is he going to talk about Krishna? Now I'm talking about Krishna, but I'm talking about how we can access Krishna, because that is our problem. Whenever we approach Krishna, then on the screen comes a message: access denied, access denied, access denied. And then, okay, then you have to supply, then it asks for a password again. And you try different passwords, but still no access, still access denied. You know how frustrating that can be. So that is why we begin with the self. But obviously, as I said, we're talking about ourself in relation to Krishna. So everything that we discuss here about ourselves and about purifying ourselves is discussion in relation with Krishna and aiming at coming closer to Krishna. So it's not about ourselves, it's about our relationship with Krishna. And that is the essence. In spiritual life, there are it is said that as different birds are flying in the sky, different devotees are situated on different levels of realization of the truth. So that's how it is. So when we first come, then we are on the initial stages of Krishna consciousness. We are sometimes described as a neophyte devotee. It is said we are kanista, our faith is weak. When a pujari hits you on the head, then you think, and I'm getting out of here, now it's enough. And then you reach your limits, your break point. So, in the beginning, faith is weak and we have a break point. We have a break point. And this break point comes from time to time, again and again, in different situations. When Maya comes in front of us, they go, oh no, please take it away. And if Maya still comes closer, then what can I do? Because Maya is very tricky. Maya, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining that it's like fighting a war, and in the war, he says, the enemy is not only on the other side, the enemy has infiltrated. Spies are operating within our own ranks. So Srila Bhakti is saying, Maya is not only without, Maya is also within. And that is the most difficult part. Maya within. And that's where, if Maya is only on the outside, but not within, then what is the problem? That's what we see. Srila Prabhupada, when preaching to this Morning Star range, it was a community in California, and lots of people in that community were naked. Men and women naked. Prabhupada arrived there, and there was a man working in the garden, no clothes. Then Prabhupada immediately, as the car stopped, wound down the window, and he says to this man, to this boy or whatever, he says, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Growing potatoes." And Prabhupada says, "No, with your life. What are you doing with your life?" So he immediately started preaching. And so then at the end, he had a kirtan with these people. And can you imagine having a kirtan with all naked men and women dancing around? That's a bit much, especially for a sannyasi. I mean, it wouldn't be like, most sannyasis wouldn't go for such a kirtan. It's okay, well, now it's time to get out of here. I guess Prabhupada also got out of there, but he had the kirtan, and different people joined from that Morning Star range, and several of them became leading personalities in the Hare Krishna movement, names withheld. What can be said? Anyway, so yes, Maya is not only outside of us, Maya is also within. And because Maya is within, we are weak. Prabhupada was not affected by that. I think that would not be something for us to imitate. I have another interesting story, something I read years ago in a biography about Gandhi, some book about Gandhi, and about Gandhi's movement. And at one point it was describing how Gandhi was having very high moral principles and how he was imposing celibacy on his intimate followers. He himself was celibate, and also his intimate followers were celibate. So one of his leaders, who was a married man, was celibate and had been so for 20 years. And for 20 years, yet him and his wife had separate bedrooms. And then a political enemy was trying to corrupt Gandhi's party, and he was trying to affect this leader. So they sent in this prostitute as a secretary, and she was like, you know, taking notes, opening up a few more buttons. And she was sitting on the edge of the desk. And one pose after another, you know, making sure that certain bodily parts were well displayed. And it worked. It worked. She managed to get on the man's mind. After a while, the man's mind started to get a bit agitated. It worked. So then, but the amazing thing was, nothing happened. Nothing happened. He never put one finger on that lady. Never. Although he was agitated. Never. But that night, for the first time in 20 years, he went to the bedroom of his wife. So I thought that was very interesting, that story, because it shows how the influence of Maya enters in one situation and it comes out in another one. Not in the same situation. And that's interesting because suddenly we realize that the world we live in, when I was a brahmachari, Well, after India, I went to the Netherlands because that's where I'm from. My visa was finished. I went back and I moved into the temple in Amsterdam. And then one of my services was I had to bring all the laundry of the brahmacharis to there was a washing place around the corner, and because we were all out on Sankirtan all day, there's no time, so the clothes were being washed there. Oh, talking about clothes, I put some clothes there. I hope somebody's gonna, if someone wants to wash them, they're there at the reception. Forgot about that. Have no clothes tomorrow. Anyway, my job was to bring the clothes to the laundry. So, huge bundle of clothes. I looked like one of those donkeys in India, you know, bundle of clothes with some legs. Walking to the laundromat, right? And then I got there and gave it to the lady. And then opposite, this is Amsterdam, opposite of the laundromat, there was the Dutch Society for Sexual Reform. Dutch, you know what I mean? For sexual reform. It was too much. They had this big window and the posters and telephone numbers. If you're interested in this kind of sex, ring this number. If you want to try out that kind of sex, then you can find out more about it. We have a brochure for your insight. And if you would like to, if you are at all attracted to anything, you know, you've never tried, then come inside and have a look around. Something like that. So, yes, everybody has seen billboards, advertisements, movies, and even now, we are devotees, you're on a plane, right? Once I was on a plane, and it happened to be Swiss Air. Just in case, I can't say it was Swiss Air. And you know, everyone had his own television screen. There were about, I could see about 20 movies, you know, at the same time. Wherever I was trying to check my rounds, and one movie was Don Juan said to this lady, and if I kiss this place, I go, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, and then, you know, another movie and another one. And then the stewardess comes and she puts this meal under my nose and says, beef or chicken? And I said, a parachute. I want to get out of here. It's too much, you know. It's like, so we're living in a world where we are being bombarded by all kinds of sinful influences, sinful desires of others are put into our face. Are you sure you don't have a little bit of this desire also? Are you really, really sure? I think maybe you do have a little bit actually, don't you? Yes, you do. Be honest. Come on. You know, just do it. Don't be square. Come on, man. You know, you're still young. Don't waste your life. This is your opportunity. And you're a brahmachari. Anyway, the statistics are against you. What chance of survival do you have? Do you realize that? Better, young man, you use your energy now to invest into some security in the future. You'll be sorry later on. Oh God. You know what you do, all these things on the mind. It comes from inside, it comes from outside, it comes from everywhere. One walk through Zurich, so many impressions go into our consciousness. Just in the temple, even there, we hear so many things that make us doubt about what we're doing. Then, you know, you go on the internet, fasten your seatbelt. And in this way, it comes from everywhere, and it all goes in. And many things go in even unconsciously, and they act in there. And Ajamil was a qualified Brahmana. Ajamil, it says, was actually he was the best amongst all the students in the ashram. Ajamil was exemplary. And Ajamil, when he saw this low-class man with a low-class woman engaged in illicit sex. He fell down. Prabhupada said, then what is our chance in this age? And he was so qualified. We are not qualified. Then what is our chance? But we're doing okay. We're doing no problem. We're chanting Hare Krishna, you know. We have the Maha Mantra. Yes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Ram. What can I do to me? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I'm practicing Bhakti Yoga now for quite a few years. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, I'm not scared of nothing, you know. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Mom can't touch me. Now, but there is another element. Invisibly, we think that, well, I'm getting a bit advanced now. I'm getting a bit advanced. But the truth is that actually, Lord Chaitanya is there, invisibly, but present, blocking Maya all the time, blocking the arrows of Cupid, blocking all these material influences. Otherwise, what chance would we have? What chance would we have? We know ourselves, don't we? We know what is in our innermost chamber. We sometimes forget it, that we've got it. Me, I am so wonderful. I have done so much service, my glories. The Me Lilamrita is like a very long book. All the amazing things I've done in devotional service. I was in England a few years ago for a Sankirtan meeting, you know, and then they had these two brahmacharis, and they were playing very senior devotees, you know, who were talking about the old times, you know, and they're sitting there, you know, one is saying to the other, well, you know, yeah, we used to go out, you know, in the winter, you know what I mean, you know, when the snow was 6 meters high, you know, 6 meters high, you know. I mean, some brahmacharis had to dig the way for the Sankirtan van, you know. And then we go out, you know, like, and just like, you know, we break the ice and just jump in the ice cold water and things like that. And we like just, you know, we only eat peanuts, you know, nothing else, only peanuts, right? Because there's no time, you know, no time for Maya and sense gratification, only peanuts, you know, and 7-Up because that was bona fide. Anyway, you get these kind of stories about the super austerities that we performed, but the truth of the matter was a little different, you know. Oh my God, do I remember my first day out on Sankirtan? Oh my God, what a day it was. That day was something else. We went in the van, early in the morning. We were loading the van at 7:30, and the van had a compartment, and the books in the back were separated from the front. The brahmanas were sitting in the front. They had the 7-Up, we didn't, the guys in the back. And they had the cashews, right? Because they didn't eat just peanuts, they had cashews, excuse me. And we're sitting in the back of the van, on the boxes of the books, 2 bhaktas. It was freezing, -15, real -15, which is very cold. Right? So we're freezing in the back there, literally. And we're getting to the spot. And the devotees, they had stolen a cart from the supermarket to move the books around. So someone said to me, can you just when we came to the spot, they opened the door and says, give the shopping cart. I gave the shopping cart, my finger got caught in it. Bang! It hurts when it's cold, even more than usual. So I was blowing on my finger. Whoa! I come out of the van, and this devotee says, what's wrong with you? My finger, my finger. He says, you're not the body, Babu. that kind of warmed me up. it helped. Then they sent me out with this other new bhakta, and this new bhakta, he had only 3 words: Jai, nectar and bliss. So he's like, all Jai, nectar and bliss, and I was in a mean mood because of my finger, right? So I wanted to say something nasty. And so he had no gloves. So then I told him, look, you know, it's -15, you have no gloves, your hands are gonna freeze, you know. He says, doesn't matter, Prabhu, I'm not this body. And it really made me think philosophically. I thought the first person almost broke my finger and says, you're not the body. But then, this is fanaticism. And the second person, he says, like when I say your hands are gonna freeze, he says I'm not the body. That's madness. So I developed deep doubts there. I started to think like, something is wrong here. Yeah. And I applied that because I was new. I applied it to the whole movement. Yeah? Is that yes, there is fanaticism in this movement. Yes, there is a type of foolishness, like of not taking care of oneself, right? And I thought about it immediately, and it's true that indeed this was there and maybe still is there, and now we're looking at a history of so many years, and now we are seeing how fanaticism ran out of steam. It's always easy to be a leader, to walk up front. All right, man, let's go. Walk up front. So the guy up front gets energy from being up front. So he can do amazing things because he walks up front and the others walk behind. Yeah? But then at one point, the followers start to get tired. And then at one point, the leader himself starts to get tired. And that happened. Where there was fanaticism, it ran out of steam. Because that is the nature of fanaticism. When we practice spiritual life on the strength of fanaticism, then at one point, one day we find ourselves with an empty tank, feeling very empty, not feeling any deep inspiration, and just wondering, how can I go on? And then that very enthusiastic, very fired up devotee has suddenly become like a wet sock or something like that, you know, something very weak and So what to do? So in spiritual life, there is a need to experience some genuine taste. Fanaticism means we go for an idea, and I'm gonna do this, and somehow or other, I shall do it, I will do it, I must do it, and everybody else also, and and everything else is just illusion. Yes, it's Maya. Everybody out in the snow. And then, whether your hands freeze off or not, doesn't matter, you're not your hands, you're not your feet, push on, come on. So, this is something, it's immaturity. It is immaturity. So, as a new devotee, I was depending on collective support, on the association of the Vaishnavas. But there I also encountered immaturity and those who were guiding me. And I started to think, well, I'm not so sure about this. And I'm not so sure about this. I think one should take care of himself. You know? I was not so naive when I came to the Hare Krishna movement. I already had some experience in life. I traveled around the world for 8 years and I'd been in many conditions, so by the time I came I was not so innocent. I knew you have to take care of yourself. And that is a fact. Many didn't realize that. Many thought all you have to do is become part of a movement and they'll take care of the rest. And then after many years they suddenly realized, oh no, I have to take care of myself. It is a fact. One has to take care of himself all throughout spiritual life. This is important. Next question then maybe, how? How? Well, yes, how to take care of ourselves. Well, one principle is that we have to be take shelter. We have to realize that we need to take shelter. We have to realize that you cannot perform Krishna consciousness on your own strength, on the strength of character. It's like me, I am Dutch, and Dutch people are stubborn and they are dynamic, and they are always developing things, doing things, and always have for thousands of years really. And that lives in me also, that nature, that sort of dynamic nature, and then and that stubbornness. Of course, I don't know the Swiss, but I have the impression that they're also very stubborn. I think so. I didn't come so often, but still over the years I've made some visits, and I begin to notice these Swiss are very stubborn. Maybe they're even more stubborn than the Dutch. But the Swiss just have a type of stubbornness. They just don't move. No? They just don't move. But it's like, you tell them, you should go this way. Yeah, sure. And they just don't move. You see, the Dutch, if you tell the Dutch you should go this way, the Dutch will tell you, no way. I'm not going to go this way. No, forget it. No, you must go this way. No, I will not go this way. No way, we fight. But the Swiss, I don't think, it doesn't look like they fight, they just don't go. That's my impression, maybe I'm wrong, but it looks like that. So anyway, we have our natures. And these natures, they must be very much part of our Krishna consciousness. They are, you know. I travel around the world and I realize that Krishna consciousness attracts people in different ways. Different aspects attracts people. And Krishna consciousness has to be expressed in a way that suits our nature. Then we are safe. That is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. First of all, there is the Bhagavad Gita verse, Chaturvidya bhajantemam, 4 types of people are coming to Krishna consciousness. Artha yigyasa, arthati, jnaniti bharatasabha. It is said, Artha, the one who is coming because of material distress, or the Artha is the one looking for wealth, Dhruva Maharaj. Then there's the one who is coming of material distress. It is Gajendra, the elephant, who was in the water and a crocodile on his leg. And in the narration of Gajendra, Srila Prabhupada takes the fight between Gajendra and the crocodile. He takes it as a symbolic fight of the devotee with Maya. And it said Gajendra was losing the fight because Gajendra was not in his natural element. Gajendra was in the water, which was not his natural element, and there in the water there was no food, he became weak. The crocodile in between the fight was getting a bit to eat, so he retained his strength. And although normally an elephant is much stronger, the elephant began to lose because he was not in his element. So we need to be natural in Krishna consciousness, and naturalness is a quality which is glorified by Kavi Karnapur in his Chaitanya Chandradoy Natak. So naturalness is something that's important, and I think over the years this has become more prominent in our movement, isn't it? Now we begin to think more, yes, let Krishna consciousness be natural, and it is important. But then we have higher nature, lower nature, and when we talk about being natural, there's not much point in going for the lower nature, because if we start to do all those things that are part of our lower nature, that will bring us down. So one theme that I have been emphasizing over a longer period of time is a theme of that in Krishna consciousness we must follow our taste. Taste is important, but not the lower taste, the higher taste. Follow your higher taste. In other words, we can do something in Krishna consciousness that we like. We used to think that the more you hate the service, the more you surrender. So if there's a service you really don't like, that service you should do, Prabhu. There you'll get more purified. There you get more purified. You see, if you do the service you like, you just engage. You just keep on cultivating your material attachments. Gotta do what you don't like, Prabhu. Just surrender. But Srila Prabhupada, in his introduction of the Nectar of Devotion, says that nothing moves without taste. He says nothing moves without taste. So spiritual life does have an element of tapasya. Tapo divyam putraki yena sattvam. There must be tapasya. Tapasya means sacrifice. There must be things that we don't feel like doing, that we do out of prescribed duty. But that's not all there is. It's not that the spiritual life is just about do your duty, 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 just do your duty, do your duty, do your duty, do your duty, just do your duty, do your duty, do your duty, just do your duty. After a while it becomes heavy duty. It becomes difficult. We need taste. So this movement is definitely very much based on taste, and therefore we must discover our taste, follow our taste and discover our taste. And we have to find it. Something we like. If there's something we like in devotional service, good, do it. Get into it. Do it. Whatever it is, let's get into that. We do our duty also. But we also do some things that we like, and we build on that, and that becomes a great source of inspiration. Just like, and you see that, you see like people who love to sing bhajans, which is the fashion of the day. Then it adds juice. If you're into music and singing and all that, it's juice. Or you have some people, they have incredible memories, right? and they can memorize the whole Bhagavad Gita or things like that. They can, you know, they have a slok for every occasion. Yes, such people, you know. So it doesn't matter. You know? It's like, doesn't matter. For any occasion, there's a slok, you know, coming out. It's just amazing. What a memory. So it's kind of natural that people like to do what they're good at. You know? It's like if you can't cook, then after a while, it's not so inspiring anymore. When anybody goes like, oh, when nobody shows up for lunch when you have cooked, then after a little while, it gets a bit depressing, you know, like, you think, well, maybe I need to change the service. Yeah. So it's very natural that we have some talents and that we have to engage these abilities, and that as soon as we start doing it, it becomes exciting. And then we feel challenged, and that is necessary. So I'm speaking about these things, which are kind of practical points, because the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not only something ethereal, something magic that comes from above, like a ray of transcendental light. Wow! The mercy, I got the mercy, I got the mercy. The mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes in a very practical way, comes in a way of using the material energy in the service of Krishna and doing what we can do. And when we do what we can do for Krishna, yes, then it's fun. Like, you know, there are so many people here that can do so many things, and like looking at Navina Nirada, if he wasn't selling, if he wouldn't have sold books, he would have sold something else for sure. Because he can sell anything. I would buy it for sure. I'm a sucker. I always buy. It's an ability, but then that ability became engaged in the service of Krishna, and then it became transcendental, and then an element of empowerment came in, and then it suddenly becomes something that's no longer material, something that really starts to take place on the spiritual platform. So if I look at myself, people have sometimes spoken about the service that I did, and then they speak about like, and he did all this service, he did all that service. The truth is, I didn't want to do it. I never wanted to do it. But that first day on Sankirtan, I didn't want to get out of the car. But somehow or other I had to. The second day on Sankirtan was even worse than the first. You know, the second day on Sankirtan, we had gone far away to a place just next to the German border. So I was far away from home, and just as I was real mental about approaching people, there were different things. I was in Krishna consciousness for only a short time, and I was, well, of course we had a shaved head, so I had a hat from here up to over my eyebrows, and when I joined Krishna consciousness, I had a winter coat, which it was a navy jacket. Expensive actually, good winter coat, and they said no, devotees don't have coats like that, and they threw it in the garbage. And instead, they bought me a nylon jacket, and it was yellow, black, yellow. So I looked like a wasp. So I was standing there on the street, and I was having a bit of an identity crisis. You know, I was like feeling like totally weird. Right? So it didn't help. It didn't help. I was just like, the way I looked, so totally weird. So by my looks, I lost my self-confidence. You know? And then it was already tough that I had to approach people with books. And then I had tried a few people and it wasn't going, and then I was standing there, and I was near a warehouse. There was some hot air coming out near the entrance, so I was warming up, which book distributors always do. And I was just standing there, and then of all people, totally in the wrong city, the mother of my girlfriend comes walking out of this big shop, you know, and she looks at me like, seeing me in these clothes, like, what happened to you? And then she says, what are you doing here? And I was so shocked that she was there, because it was in the wrong city. She wasn't supposed to be there. That in the shock I said that, what do you mean, madam? I've never met you in my life. And then, once you said that, you can't go back. So she goes like, no, I can't believe that. I said, no, really, I mean, you mistake me for someone else. You know? Oh, it's terrible. After that encounter, I was mentally broken. So the second day was also very tough, very, very tough. Anyway, so what to do? Spiritual life is not just a life where it's so easy. Spiritual life is like getting new shoes, and you gotta walk on these shoes for a while before they're really comfortable, if you know what I mean. Those kind of shoes. They look good, but it takes a while before they really fit nicely. It takes a while before we are comfortably situated in Krishna consciousness. For some, maybe 20 years. For some, maybe 30 years. For some, maybe 40 years. For some, maybe a few lifetimes. When will we actually be just totally comfortable and inspired in Krishna consciousness? And that is a big question. And now, since I've been talking for a long time, I thought, let me take a little help from you. What can we do to add more inspiration? Association. Well, I gave some examples how they hit you over the head, and, you know, and they step on your toes, they elbow you, they criticize you, you know. I mean, in 95, I was shocked, and it really looked like it came from inside. And I was in the hospital, and not everyone was speaking kind words about me, which, okay, maybe I deserved, but still I felt at that time I needed a little sympathy. So it's not always nectar, Prabhu. It's not only joy, nectar and bliss.
No, depends of the...
Huh?
Depends.
And then?
Depends of the devotees also.
Then? Association, what do you mean? You have to say, explain it to me.
Of nice devotees, not this fanatic or...
Yeah, but you know, one of my problems that I discovered when I joined the Hare Krishna movement, before I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I thought, I'm going to join, and there are going to be all these people, they're going to be really nice, because they're going to be just like me. They're going to be all like-minded people, right? They'll be really nice. All these people, like-minded people, finally I'll be with the people who are just like me. You know, and then I noted that horrible person who I always really never liked, that he had also joined the Hare Krishna movement. And then I thought, what do I do now? And oh no, not him. He walks around the corners, Sika, everything, bald head. And I go, oh no, not again. So you move, you have to choose a temple or a place, right? And then you have to do it with the people that are there. Some are nice, some are okay, and some are maybe, well, offer your respect at a distance type of Vaishnavas. Is it? So I'm asking you for a solution for my problem. I'm presenting, Prabhu, I have a problem. How do I associate with the devotees? For my inspiration, honestly, I'll get more serious about it. How do I do it? I was hoping that with the devotees I would have many discussions about Krishna, just like I read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then the Vaishnavas met, and then they just spoke about topics of Krishna the whole night. But I didn't find that so much in the Hare Krishna movement. I found that mostly there are mundane discussions, just the regular, how are you, and how is this, and how is that, and what's the local politics, and you know, and what's going on. Discussions and topics of Krishna. So rare, sometimes. And then how do you have a discussion about Krishna? You know, did you hear? Krishna went to the forest this morning with a cowboy. Yeah. Really? Far out. Yeah. How do you have a discussion on the topics of Krishna? Are you really going to tell me? Do you know that Krishna went to the forest with the cowboy boys this morning? Is that how we're going to do it? How do you associate with devotees? Please help me out. Everybody, please help me out.
With respect.
Respect.
And with we have this. I mean, it's stated. We offer obeisances to certain Vaishnavas. We associate. We inquire from certain Vaishnavas. We can't just do with all the same. We have different groups. So we go and, for example, if you're inspiration, then I go to you. If you're not inspiration, then I offer my respectful obeisances to you, but I don't go and discuss with you about topics.
Okay, so he says respect. And he says when respect is the basis of relationships, then that's nice, because then we have when there's someone who's inspiring, okay, then I can go to that person. When there's someone who's not so inspiring, then I'll just be respectful. Well, that reminds me of how my mother brought me up, you know, that I had to be polite. Because, that you can't just say what comes into your head. And then, you know, and someone comes to the door, ding dong, and, you know, and they say, oh, do come in, how wonderful you came. If you could read the thoughts, they say, oh no, not them again. Oh no, how are we going to get rid of them? Oh, please come in for a moment. Would you like to sit down? Oh God, they're going to sit down, and once they sit down, they're never going to go. Yes. Would you like a drink, maybe? Of course they want a drink. They always want a drink. Yes. Oh yes, what would you like? And there's that. You know what I mean? The hypocrisy of what you call polite. There's an element of hypocrisy in being polite. Yeah? But it is protective. It protects us from offending people, so that's why it exists in society. Because if everyone would be honest, then it's like, you know, can't stand your face, I don't, you know, then, you know, there wouldn't be any, there would be, the Third World War would break out immediately. So politeness keeps peace in the world. So your respect looks like that. Gopal Kripa has a hand up.
Maybe that my experience that if we fix in some certain service or mission, like we'll try to please the deities. So according to capacity, so when the deity or Krishna is in the center, then the energy is very, very nice.
Mhm.
And I'm able to even love the food and eat it. Also, at that time I feel it's okay. So that fixedness together will please the center.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, the deity is obviously very important. I would agree with you on that. And if you look at the Nectar of Devotion, it describes how deity worship is essential. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who kind of is the architect, the original designer of Krishna consciousness for the modern world, he took elements from our tradition and then created a package. And Prabhupada took that package and more or less took the essence of that and brought it to the West. So he certainly put in deity worship as an essential element, because he said deity worship regulates our external activities. Because in deity worship, well, things are prescribed. Right? When you walk into the temple room, you're supposed to behave in a certain way. You're supposed to bow down, and you're not just supposed to, walk into the temple room and go, hey, how you going? It's like you can't really. You have to have a certain respectful behavior in the temple room. A little different than outside, isn't it? So when the deities are in the center, it kind of regulates the behavior of people and is bringing the focus. Krishna is important, but I have one doubt. And I'm a hard case, you know. I need a lot of help, really. I need a lot of help. I have one doubt. And this doubt is based on something I read in Chaitanya Bhagavat. There in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it is said that one day Advaita Acharya came back from the temple after having taken darshan of the deity. And then Lord Chaitanya asked him, he said, "Oh, Acharya, where did you just come from?" He said, "Oh, I just took darshan of the deities." Lord Chaitanya said, "Okay, what did you do after?" He said, "Well, after I came here." "No, Lord Chaitanya, no. What did you do in between? What did you do?" And Advaita Acharya was thinking, he said, "Well, after taking darshan of the deities, I did the parikrama of the deities. I walked around the deities, as is prescribed in the scripture." And then Lord Chaitanya said, "Acharya, I have defeated you." Advaita Acharya said, "You've defeated me? How have you defeated me?" He said, "Yes, I've defeated you." He said, "Because when I go for darshan, I always stand in a place, in such a position that I can always see the deities. But you walk around the deities and then you are behind the deities and then you cannot see the deities. I have defeated you." Yeah? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with this particular, in this incident, was showing that worship of the deities can also take place in different ways. That there's worship of the deity by rules and regulations, which Advaita Acharya was following very nicely, with devotion. And then the spontaneous platform of actually relating to the deity as Krishna. So my problem is that when I stand in front of the deity, that I don't really believe that the deity is God. And I preach to myself, and I tell myself again and again, here is God. Don't forget now, you're standing in front of the Supreme Lord. Yes, and of course, I serve the deity and so on. But if I would really believe that the Supreme Lord, that the deity is the Supreme Lord, then I would be like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who spontaneously, upon seeing the deities, just wanted to jump on the altar to embrace Krishna. I never had that feeling yet. I stand there sometimes in Mangala Arati. I wish I would have stayed in bed. So, therefore, I'm still need more help. I need help. How can I improve my relationship with the deity?
By the mercy of Guru.
Mercy of Guru. Okay, I'm going to think about that in a moment. Let's get back to Mercy of Guru. Yes, please.
Helping to the devotee if you can, what you can, small helps.
If I help the devotees.
Devotional service or in private life.
Uh-huh.
If you can, for your small round of relatives, you can help them. And
I can help them. Okay. In whatever they want to do.
No.
Not in everything they want to do.
Devotional service.
Only in devotional service.
In
Okay.
private life. In higher pace.
Well, you know, I tried that. Yeah, I tried it. I decided I want to help the devotees. And I thought maybe if I just free myself from all other things and I just take sannyas, and then I'll just help the devotees. And you know, but there's no end to it. There's no end to it, you know. Sometimes I just feel if I don't learn to say no, they're going to eat me up, you know, one of these days. I mean, there's no end. You want to see how many unanswered mails I have, you know, and how many Facebook friends I have, you know, and there are many waiting. I don't even have time to accept all the Facebook friends all the people that want to be my friends on Facebook. Yeah? And they don't have time to go on Facebook and click yes. They think I don't want them as a friend. That's not it. I just don't have time to click. Yeah? I'm too busy. How do I deal with all this? So, to just serve the devotees, I mean, you know, I've shaved my hair, but I tell you, it turned grey trying to serve the devotees. And do I have any time left for, you know, just devotional service and serving the devotees? So how to do that? How do I just serve the devotees? Easier said than done, huh? Yes, I need help with my problems.
I'm not talking.
I came here to this weekend or this week, really, and you thought I was going to bring you a lot of inspiration, but the truth is, I'm bringing you a lot of problems. And I'm going to ask you for some solutions. And Avina Nirada is ready to help me. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Well, first of all, thanks for bringing out these points, Maharaj, because I feel that you're addressing these issues which are very pertinent to all of our lives. I'm not answering to you in person because I feel that I'm not in a position to offer any advice. But that person that you are representing, I would tell that person that you need to get back in touch with reality, because you're kind of went off the yes, reality check. Usually what it does for me is when I feel myself a little bit out of touch with reality, what helps is that I look into my own heart and I accept the fact that I'm a very small, insignificant person. And then I start to appreciate each and every living entity, and respect was mentioned, service was mentioned. I think what really reinforces this experience is positive experiences in devotional service. Moments of success, moments of truth, of authenticity, which give you beacons of light, inspiration. And as you mentioned in your class, they're different for every devotee. Whatever clicks for you, do that, and do it for Krishna. And associate with people who are an inspiration to your mood and to your personality.
But isn't that karma yoga? Karma yoga is that you do the things you like for Krishna.
Well, that's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita.
Isn't that a lower form of yoga?
Yes, but that's...
Shouldn't you go to pure, unalloyed bhakti, just surrender where you're not like pursuing your own personal interest?
Yeah,
isn't it lower what you're just proposing?
Yes, but that's where we're at. So we have to start where we're at. We cannot jump to the higher platform immediately.
That's like heavy, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I resonate with what you say, because I also made a link between honesty and humility over the years. I also kind of came to the conclusion that humility is not, to try and be humble is not a matter of trying to act humble. Excuse me, Prabhus. Thank you so much for tolerating my presence. That's not humble. That's not humble. That's Shakespeare. That's drama. Humility doesn't necessarily mean to always walk with your nose on the ground or to always look down at the ground. It doesn't work that way. So I also came to the conclusion that if I ever have to become humble, which is not so easy for a European, you know what I mean? We are, after all, Europeans. I mean, let's be frank, many of you are Swiss, you know what I mean? Swiss, I mean, it's like... And and I'm Dutch, and it's not that different, to tell you the truth, and I'm from a good part of Holland, by the way, And actually, the kind of Dutch I speak, that's the high class one, So it's not so easy. It's not so easy to be humble. So what to do? And I've tried over the years, many times to take a humble mood, right? And try, but it sort of felt weird, when I was trying to act humble. It felt strange. It didn't feel genuine. It felt like not really. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, I'm lower than a worm in stool. Anyone who comes into contact with me loses all his pious credits. It seemed a little artificial. It seemed like an acute inferiority complex. I mean, a psychiatrist would have a field day on a statement like that, What do we... But honesty, yes, if we get honest, okay, then I can admit that if I begin, I'm probably not God. I guess I'm not God. I guess I have to admit it. I'm not God. It's a shock, it's a big step to take. But really, I'm not God. What to do? I guess second best to God is to be a pure devotee. And I guess not even that. And oh my God, when I'm not a pure devotee, then maybe I have some faults. Oh no. And now if I maybe have some faults, maybe I should admit a few. Well, 3 hours later, still going. So honesty certainly has an effect of creating humility. And humility is good. So I also went that route together with Naveen and Nirada of introspection and looking into the heart and trying to be more honest and trying to become more humble. But I tell you, when I went into that heart, I found a block of granite, and I've been chiseling on it, and with and I broke already many chisels of honesty, and you know, and somebody told me, go get a bigger hammer, get more honest. But then, as I was supposed to get more honest, I realized that this block of granite that I'm chiseling on is the door to my innermost chamber. And that, Navina Viroda, I ain't gonna be honest. To be honest, I ain't gonna be honest about my innermost chamber. No way, Jose.
You need mercy.
I need mercy.
Mercy case.
Mercy case. Does anybody have some?
High dosage and on a continuous basis, daily. High dose.
I need a daily dose of mercy on a continuous basis, high doses all the time. It's good. It's good. It's not bad at 11:28 to come up with that conclusion. Not bad at all. I think we're doing good. That was good timing, because I think that I have an answer to it, of course.
That's the topic of the day, and that rounds it up.
Yeah, but I think that the opening tomorrow will have to be that I need mercy, and a heavy dose I need all the time, as much as I can get. Yes, I do think so. Of course, just to say, I've been trying to get a lot of mercy. And it came to this movement from day one. Thought that this is where I would get it. But you know, I mean, maybe I need a lot, maybe it's just me, but I'm not getting enough. That's my problem. I'm just not getting enough mercy. And what do we do about that? Huh? Helpless case. I'm a helpless case. Oh boy. Helpless, hopeless. Oh no. Oh, I can jump from a mountain. Yes.
Connect oneself with the Harinam Sankirtan movement, because one drop of mercy of Lord Nityananda can drown the whole universe.
One drop of mercy of Lord Nityananda can drown the whole universe. Okay, well this is too big a topic.
It's available.
Too big a topic. Okay, Navina, I'll take this and put it on the shelf, but thanks for appreciate that. That was really nice, you know. I'll definitely keep that on the shelf. A drop of mercy of Nityananda. Good. Gopal, great.
I guess what I was saying is not really conclusion, but I experienced that sometimes in times when I realize my fallen, helpless condition, sometimes I used to chant, and a little bit also crying will come, little bit the heart melts and realizing, and that crying sometimes helps.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm prepared. But yeah, due to my, you know, where I came from, boys don't cry. You know, so it's tough, you know. Without the onions, I don't know if I can do it. But I'm working on it. I'll try to cry for Krishna. Yes.
Last resort.
Last resort. Hopeless. Not only helpless, but hopeless. Last resort.
We need a little help from our friends.
We need a little help from our friends. Well, thank you very much. I hope that I didn't cause too much confusion.
No.
That I didn't bring anyone to the edge. Destroyed their faith, although I tried to in various ways. I tried hard in this first seminar to kind of put all kinds of question marks that undermine our faith. And now, tomorrow, I have to try and rebuild it. I'm not sure if I'm able to. I hope I will be. If not, sorry, we'll try again another time. Thank you very much for being with us in this seminar. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It continues tomorrow. Don't ask me what it will be about tomorrow. I hope Lord Nityananda will give us some inspiration, because I'm lost. I'm lost. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada. Teacher.